Prairie Yard and Garden is a production of the University of Minnesota Morris in cooperation with Pioneer Public Television. Funding for Prairie Yard and Garden is provided in part by Heartland Motor Company, providing service for over 30 years in the heart of truck country. Heartland Motor Company, we have your best interest at heart. Farmers Mutual Telephone Company and Federated Telephone Cooperative, proud to be powering ASERA. Mark and Margaret Yakel Julien, in honor of Shalom Hill Farm, a nonprofit rural education retreat center in a beautiful prairie setting near Windham in southwestern Minnesota. Shalom Hill Farm, shalomhill.org. Diamond Willow Advanced Care Assisted Living, providing custom homes with smaller settings designed especially for high care needs.
When I grew up, we had lots of garden produce to pick, eat, and preserve. We only grew the basics, so just imagine what it was like when I went to college and tried what were really unusual vegetables to me. Things like broccoli and cauliflower were new and delicious things to try. I'm Mary Holm, host of Prairie Yard and Garden, and let's go visit a master gardener who just loves to try new and unusual things in her garden. Things that are way beyond my broccoli and cauliflower. Last year, someone brought pumpkins on a stick to our church bazaar. They were such a hit and sold right away. When Sarah Thronset, a master gardener from Fergus Falls, told me she grows pumpkins on a stick, along with many other unusual plants, I just had to ask if we could get together for a visit. She said sure. So here we are. Welcome, Sarah.
Well, it's nice to have you in my garden, Mary.
How long have you been gardening?
I've been gardening about 45 years. It started with 2 tomato plants in a flower garden.
How did you get interested, or how did you get started growing unusual plants?
Well, I saw them in catalogs. I also heard about it from friends who were growing those particular kind of vegetables, and I thought, well, let's try it. I mean, I'm kind of up for the challenge, and I kind of enjoy it, so let's go for it.
Do you get the unusual plants from seed, plants, or both?
I usually get them from seed because I can get more variety from them.
Okay, and I would guess some of the things that you grow probably just aren't even available around here.
That's exactly right. Most of the things that I grow that are unusual I wouldn't find in a greenhouse anyway, so I usually have to start them from seed either in the house or in the garden itself.
And then how early do you start things? Because a lot of times we just don't have really good light and warmth either.
Well, because I have grow lights, I really can start everything about 6 to 8 weeks out. Some things take a little bit longer. For example, artichokes do take about 10 to 12 weeks.
How do you make the decision of what you want to try?
Well, I go through the catalogs every year and I think, oh, that's kind of interesting, so I like to try that. Sometimes I hear about it from friends that have grown it before, and occasionally I will find it from food magazines or food TV shows. So that's how I found out about kaleettes, was through a food magazine.
When you put them out into the garden, how early do you put the things out?
I'm kind of a Memorial Day kind of gardener, so I don't really plant too much before Memorial Day. I find that it doesn't make much of a difference, and if you warm up the soil, I think that's always best.
What are some of the unusual vegetables that you actually grow?
Well, this year I'm growing pineapple tomatillos, I'm growing kaleettes, I'm growing quinoa. In the past I've grown artichokes, strawberry spinach. That was very much fun.
Do you grow them just one time, or if you like them, do you grow them year after year?
Normally, I decide whether or not I'm going to grow them by whether or not I have, first of all, success and whether or not I like them. A lot of times I will just grow them to see if I can grow them. And sometimes they don't do very well in my garden, so I don't grow them again. But some become a regular part of my garden rotation, such as pineapple tomatillos.
Sarah, how long have you been a master gardener?
I've been a master gardener since 2012. I'm with the West Otter Tail County Master Gardeners here in Fergus Falls.
Ah, well, that's going to be great because we can get your knowledge when we go and see some of those actual plants. Would it be possible for you to take us and show us those plants?
Oh, I'd love to.
Sarah, you mentioned Kaylet, and I'm not familiar with that at all. Tell us about it.
Well, Kaylet's is a cross between Brussels sprouts and kale, and it was a 15-year breeding program from Tozier Seed in the United Kingdom. It is the first new vegetable introduction since broccolini in 1993.
So did you start this from seed, or was this a plant?
I started it from seed, but I started it inside.
Can you put them out early, just kind of like the other cold crops like broccoli or cabbage?
Yes, you can. They are just as hardy as kale and Brussels sprouts, yes. I wanted to show you how they actually grow, though. They're going to be coming from here, and so they grow just like Brussels sprouts. Even though they look quite a bit like kale, they grow like Brussels sprouts.
Well, that was my question then, too. Do you harvest the leaves like kale and use them in salads?
No, I don't. I think that that would cause a problem with the actual kale producing itself, so I don't cut them off at all.
What is your spacing on these plants?
Well, about 24 inches, but sometimes I have to move them a little closer because I need the space.
About what time of the year will you be harvesting these?
These won't be ready until probably mid-September. They're 110 days. So this particular variety is called Autumn Star, and it is the earliest of the Kaylettes. And this is the one that is recommended for Minnesota.
So when you harvest them, what do you do with them after harvest?
I just cook them up. I don't freeze them or try to preserve them at all. I just use them fresh off the plant.
Okay. Do you steam them then, kind of like a Brussels sprout, or?
You can, but I usually saute them.
Okay. Do you have to worry at all about cabbage moths on these?
They're the same as cabbage, yes. You will have some moth damage, but I don't usually do anything about it. I don't use pesticides in my garden, so I just let them be.
Then have you had any trouble at all with the worms or the larvae eating the little Kaylettes that form?
Not really. Sometimes I'll see a little hole maybe in the leaf, but usually not too bad.
Well, these are very pretty, actually.
Yes, they are. They're just beautiful.
Okay. What else do you grow?
Well, I grow some edamame if you want to step over here, Mary.
Now, that is one that I've heard of, but I know nothing about. So tell us about this one.
Well, edamame is actually immature soybeans.
I was going to say, this looks just like a soybean.
Right, and they grow either 2 or 3 to a pod, and they are kind of fuzzy.
Very much like a soybean.
Just very much like a soybean, and you harvest them when they are green, and they're very hard to get out when they're not, but here they are, they're green, and they're just going to get a little bit bigger than this, and then they will be ready to use, and I use them just like peas. So I put them in stir fry and things like that, and they make a fantastic hummus.
Okay, when you put them into the stir fry, you take them out, and then do you have to let them dry at all?
Nope, you don't let them dry because they are fresh. The only thing is that you have to wash them real well. They have kind of a little thin film on them, you can see. So you want to get that off, and then you just stir fry them or whatever. I do freeze them. They freeze wonderfully. They freeze just like peas do.
Okay. Is this the same as a soybean out in the field?
No, it isn't. It's entirely different. But those are dried, and they're a different variety. This particular variety is grown for fresh, and it's called Envy.
Sarah, how did you start these?
I started them directly into the ground.
Okay.
From
so just
seed.
Planted the seed. Do you save seed from one year to the next on these?
I don't, but you could, yes. You would just leave the pod on and let them dry.
Okay.
And they actually stay green. When you plant them, they're greenish.
I was going to ask, are
Yeah.
they like a soybean
No.
and turn color?
No,
Oh.
they're actually kind of greenish when you plant them.
Okay. Then how much space did you leave between the plants or the seeds when you actually planted them?
Well, I'm kind of space constrained here, so I probably only have 6 inches. It might be better to do 12, but I have only 6 here.
Oh, that close. So much closer than like peas or
Yeah,
beans.
yeah.
How do you know when to pick the pods?
Well, they will get fuller, and once they get full, you're going to want to take them off. You don't want them to start drying because obviously then they're going to dry in the pod also. So you want to make sure that you get them off when they're still green. So open them up if they seem to be filling the pod quite well, just like a pea, then you can take them off.
So how much of a yield do you get from a patch like this? Is this enough to use for several servings and meals?
Oh yeah, I will get at least a quart bag. Sometimes it depends, maybe a couple quarts of a freezer bag full of edamame.
Do you grow them in the same spot, or do you lift this and move it to someplace else in order to be able to rotate your garden area?
I rotate my garden area as much as possible, so I will lift this. Usually what I do is I put garlic here the year after I grow the edamame, and then I keep moving it back and forth.
Sarah, I see that you've got some garlic here.
I do, Mary. This is hardneck garlic, and this particular variety is called Porcelain Music. And you can tell it's hardneck because it's got this flower stalk that's come up. It's called a scape, and it ends in these little bulbils. And these are actually like seeds for the garlic. And so you can take those and plant them, and then the second year you plant those, and then the third year you'll have garlic. But normally what I do is I plant the clove itself. I take these and dry these and plant them in October.
I had somebody ask me, do you just plant the whole thing or do you break them into pieces?
You break them into pieces. You break them into the individual cloves and you plant those. And you plant them 3 to 5 weeks before the soil freezes, which around here is approximately October 15th.
Okay, so you have better luck, or you should plant the garlic in the fall.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Garlic should be planted in the fall. And you can see, if you leave the scape on, you can see how much difference there is between what happens when you leave it on and when you take it off. So normally I take the scape off probably as it'll curl, and you take it off when it curls. And then I use that just like regular garlic. I'll freeze it, wash it off and freeze it, throw it in a bag, and just use it like regular garlic, almost like a scallion in fact.
Do you have to dig them out in the winter, or you just leave them in from season to season to season until they grow to the size you want?
Nope, I dig them out in July and replant them in October. I let them dry out. So they're planted in the same year that you take them out, but I don't leave them in.
The following year, will they actually form a bulb that you can use?
Right, a clove will form a bulb that you can use. For example, this one, you can see how big that is. That was just started with one clove. But it's the bulbils, the small ones, that take more than 1 year. But this will be fine in 1 year.
How do you dry them and preserve them from July until October?
I put them in the garage. You should never dry garlic in the sun. That degrades them. And so always dry them in the garage or some shaded place. And then I just dry them, and then I will take off the roots, and then I will take off all of the dried stuff, but I leave on that hard neck there, and I store that inside in my pantry for those ones that I don't use in the garden.
Do you put them into like a mesh bag or something so the air can circulate around them? And
No, I
preserve
put them in an open plant flat that you get at the garden center, and I have a open rack, and I dry them that way. I find that's lots easier. A lot of people leave all this on and they drape it over a hanger, a coat hanger or something like that. I find that, first of all, I don't have the room for it, and second, I find it kind of messy. So I just leave them in something that's very, very open so they can get air circulation.
Okay. Sarah, you've got more vegetables, unusual vegetables in another garden. Could we go see them?
Well, of course, Mary.
I have a question. How long has the University of Minnesota been breeding apples?
The University of Minnesota started an apple breeding program in 1908. They purchased the land right here that we're standing on that's now part of the Landscape Arboretum. And it's ended up being the longest continuous apple breeding program in the U.S. And of course the reason for that is it's been so successful. Its goal has always been to find apples that can make it through a real Minnesota winter, minus 30 or even a little bit colder. But because now especially the apple market is worldwide, apples are being shipped from everywhere, they have to be really superior quality. And one of the trademarks of the U of M is that crisp texture that Honeycrisp introduced, but now following apples, Zestar, Sweet Tango have carried that out. And so that it's been a very successful program. All of us living in Minnesota benefit from it. And the apple growing industry, where they grow apples on trellises like we're standing right next to here, have really benefited from it.
Ask the Arboretum Experts has been brought to you by the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum in Chanhassen, dedicated to enriching lives through the appreciation and knowledge of plants.
Sarah, what are these cute little things?
These are called cucamelons or Mexican sour gherkins. They look like a watermelon. You can see how they're shaped and colored like a watermelon, but they taste like a cucumber with a little bit of a lemony aftertaste in them.
How do you use them?
Well, they're great as a snack. You can just pop them into your mouth, and they're really easy because you don't have to peel them or cut them up or anything. They can also be pickled. I hear that they are great in adult beverages.
Did you start these from seed or a plant?
Nope, these were from seed. Yep, they're planted just like a cucumber would be.
Okay, and obviously it looks like you've given them a trellis as a support so they can climb.
Right. They've got an extremely delicate little vine here, and they really do need support. They are very, very heavy producers. You can get an awful lot with them. In fact, more than I can use.
Sarah, what is this plant?
This is called pumpkins on a stick, and it's actually an eggplant. It's really known as red ruffled eggplant or ruffled red eggplant. It's also called mung red eggplant, and they look like little pumpkins. And these actually are green right now, but they will turn red as they mature. They should be ready probably about the end of August. When I take them off, I strip them of all their leaves and use that red eggplant looking thing just right in a fall arrangement. But I have tried to dry them. Some dry fine, some just have too much moisture and they rot before they dry. So it's kind of a hit or miss type of thing. They will shrivel down as they dry, and so they don't look as nice, I don't think. But a lot of times they will rot because they contain a lot of water. They're just like any other eggplant. I started them from seed and I started them inside, but I have in the past grown them directly in the soil and had no problem with that either.
Wow, they sure are pretty.
Thank you.
And what's this?
This is pineapple tomatillo, and they are actually a ground cherry. They've got that Chinese lantern type of look to them, and they've got a papery husk when they are dried, and then inside is a fruit that's about the size of a large blueberry, but it tastes like pineapple.
My question was going to be, I've heard of ground cherries and I've heard of tomatillos, so they really are pretty much the same thing?
Tomatillos are actually larger. They're both in the tomato family, the Solanaceae family. Tomatillos are green and they are larger. Ground cherries are smaller and they tend to be more yellow colored. I use them in salsa. I make a salsa with cilantro and jalapenos and onions, and it is our favorite salsa, and we love it on shrimp quesadillas.
Again, do you seed these or do you grow plants?
No, I seed these, and this is something I grow every year, and I usually keep them in the same area because they will have volunteers. So if my plants don't come as well as I think they should, I'll have volunteers come up.
Okay. I noticed that you actually have some mulch that you put down in here too. Tell me about that.
We use straw mulch. My brother-in-law is a turkey farmer, so we get as clean a straw as we can and put it down to help keep the weeds on the pathways.
But I actually saw some newspaper underneath too.
I put newspaper underneath and then straw on top.
How come?
The straw isn't as good as what you think it is, so sometimes the weeds come through and then it's really hard to hoe through the straw. So I put down the newspaper first.
How many layers of papers do you put down?
2.
What I would think is it would be real nice with the rain that we had this year. You could come right in and even walk even though it's been muddy.
And that's what I use it for. I use it for access to the garden so I don't have to step on the soil and compact the soil as much. Here's the quinoa I was telling you about, Mary. It's from the Incan word quinua, which means mother grain, but it's a kind of a misnomer because it's not a grain. It's actually a chenopod, which is in the same family as beets. Well, you can use it just like you do rice. You can use it in salads or soups or stews. You can use it as a side dish. It cooks up a little quicker than actual rice.
How do you know when to harvest this?
Well, you'll see that this is green, okay, then it turns kind of a purple color, and then it kind of turns a reddish or orangey color, and then it gets quite brown and dried. And when it's like this is ready to harvest.
Do you take this and pick it, and then do you have to let it dry down after you have picked it too?
Yes, once you pick it, then you'll let it dry. I, again, dry things in the garage, and I dry it till it's very, very dry, and then you have to crush it to get the shells off or the husks off, and then you have to winnow it, and then you have to wash it many, many times in water to remove something called saponin. And saponin is a toxin that is actually on the seeds itself to prevent the birds from eating them. They don't like the toxin, so they don't eat them.
How do you know when you have it washed enough to get that off so it's safe to use?
Well, it turns white, and the water will be clear rather than milky. So when you first start agitating it, it'll be very, very milky, and you keep changing that water and changing that water until it runs clear.
And then how do you actually get this off and winnow it and everything?
I put it through a mesh.
Okay. And then once it's dried, you can keep it then for quite a long time?
Oh yes, I actually put it in the freezer. Again, I use it for salads or stews or soups or whatever.
Okay. And I've heard it's very healthy.
Quinoa is the only vegetable that is a complete protein.
Sweet potatoes, I think,
oh,
right?
Oh yes, I am the self-proclaimed sweet potato queen of West Otter Tail County.
Okay.
So, yes, self-proclaimed.
And how do you start yours? I've heard about that you can take and put them in a toothpick and on this thing.
Right. I've done them both in water and in soil. Right now I do it in soil, but I take a sweet potato from last year's harvest in my own garden. They last that long, and I will put them in some soil, and they will start producing little shoots just like that, and those are called slips. And once they produce it, it gets out about 6 inches. I just break it off from the main sweet potato, stick it in dirt or potting soil actually, and then just let that grow, and then that's what I put out in the garden.
When do you dig your potatoes?
I dig them towards the end of September, but you can leave them in until just before frost. You never want to let the sweet potatoes get frozen because they'll turn bitter.
Okay, and then do you have to dry them?
I dry them in the garage. Ideally, they should be dried at about 85 degrees, but I don't have that luxury. So I just put them in the garage, and I keep them there until the temperature in the garage drops between 50 and 55 degrees. You never want to store sweet potatoes under 50 degrees, so you never want to put them in the refrigerator. They ideally like to be stored between 55 and 65 degrees, so I bring them in the house. I put them in a closet on the outside wall, and I keep them that way. And they keep pretty much all winter until I'm ready to start them again in the house.
us about the beans that you're growing.
Well, I have 4 different kinds of beans. They're actually heirloom beans, and this is called cranberry speckled beans. And they're actually, when they come out of the pod, they are much whiter than this, and as they get older, they turn kind of a tan color. These are called Cherokee Trail of Tears, and they commemorate, of course, the Trail of Tears when they relocated the Indians. This is Hidatsa shield figure, and those were used in the Three Sisters gardens where you had the corn and the squash and the beans. And these are called Painted Pony. And this is the only bush variety that I grow. The other 3 are vines.
And I see that you definitely have to provide support for them.
Yes, they get pretty big. They'll grow, I would imagine they'd grow at least 8 feet if we let them.
Oh my gosh. When do you harvest these?
I harvest them sometime in probably late September. It kind of depends. The Painted Pony ones, they are ready probably at the end of August, first part of September. They come very early. But the rest of them, they aren't ready until September sometime.
Sarah, what do you use the beans for?
I use these just like I would use any other kind of dried bean, soups, stews, chilies. They cook up very well. And I freeze them also after I cook them up.
You had mentioned that you also grow shallots.
I do.
What are they like? Are they like a regular kind of an onion, or what are they like?
Well, they're in the same family. They're in the allium family, but they're much smaller than onions. They can be kind of confused with multiplier onions. It appears that it's rather arbitrary whether you call it a shallot or a multiplier onion. Commercially, shallots are the red ones that are elongated and have kind of a red skin on them, and the multiplier onions look like small versions of onions with the brownish skin on it. But actually, the ones that I grow are the round ones with the brownish skin, and they are also called shallots. So it can be rather arbitrary as to what they call them.
Well, Sarah, this has been so interesting. Thank you very, very much for allowing us to come to the gardens and telling us about all these unusual plants.
Oh, it's just been my pleasure, Mary. Thank you so much.
Funding for Prairie Yard and Garden is provided in part by Heartland Motor Company, providing service for over 30 years in the heart of truck country. Heartland Motor Company, we have your best interest at heart. Farmers Mutual Telephone Company and Federated Telephone Cooperative, proud to be powering ASERA. Mark and Margaret Yakel Julien, in honor of Shalom Hill Farm, a nonprofit rural education retreat center in a beautiful prairie setting near Windham in southwestern Minnesota. Shalom Hill Farm, shalomhill.org. Diamond Willow Advanced Care Assisted Living, providing custom homes with smaller settings designed especially for high care needs.